Greetings and welcome to my channel. On today's menu we have some interesting urban legends from different parts of the world. Many urban legends are framed as complete stories with plot and characters. The compelling appeal of a typical urban legend, its element of mystery, horror, fear or even humor. Often they serve as cautionary tales. Some urban legends are morality tales. Urban legends will often try to invoke a feeling of disgust in the reader, which tends to make these stories more memorable and potent. Elements of shock value can be found in almost every form of urban legend, and are partially what makes these tales so impactful. An urban legend may include elements of the supernatural or paranormal. Many of the most well-known tales will try to balance out the normal with the paranormal. Before we start, please consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Black Volga refers to an urban legend widespread in Poland, Hungary, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Greece and Mongolia, mainly in the 1960s and 1970s. The legend refers to a black, or in some versions red, Gas-21 or Gas-24 that was allegedly used to abduct people, especially children. According to different versions, it was driven by priests, nuns, communist secret police, Russian mafia, vampires, Satans, or Satan himself. The car is described as having white wheel rims, white curtains, or other white elements. This impression was also caused by the active use of passenger car of the Gorky automobile plant Gaz M1 by the NKVD bodies during the years of mass repression. For the sake of saving money during almost all the time of its release, the M1 was only available with black paint, which emphasized the ominous image of the car. The story may have originated from a real behavior of NKVD head Lavrenti Beria, assumed sexual predator. On warm nights during the war years, Beria was often driving slowly through the streets of Moscow in his armed Packard limousine. He would point out young women to be detained and escorted to his mansion. Supposedly, children were kidnapped too, to use their blood as a cure for rich Westerners or Arabs suffering from leukemia. Other variants use organ thief as the motive, combining it with another infamous legend about kidney thief by the KGB. The legend surfaced again in the late 20th century, with BMW or Mercedes cars taking the Volga's place, sometimes depicted with horns instead of wing mirrors. He could also have three numbers 6 on the license plate. In this version, the driver would ask passerbys for the time and kill them when they approached the car to answer. In other version of the legend, the victim would die at the same time a day later. The drivers say,
"Tomorrow you will die at this hour."
According to another version of the legend, there was an effective defense method. Whenever the driver of Black Volga asked, "What time is it?" the asked person would have to answer, "It's God's time." The car would leave quickly.
"Tomorrow you will die at this hour."
Hanako-san is a Japanese urban legend about the spirit of a young girl named Hanako-san who haunts schools' toilets. Like many urban legends, the details of the origins of the legend vary depending on the account. Different versions of the story includes that Hanako-san is the ghost of the World War II era girl who was killed while playing hide-and-seek during an air ride, that she was murdered by a parent or a stranger, or that she committed suicide in the school toilet. Legends about Hanako-san have achieved some popularity in Japanese schools, where children may challenge classmates to try summon Hanako-san. The character has been depicted in a variety of media, including films, manga, anime and video games. According to legend, hanako-san is the spirit of the young girl who haunts school toilets, and can be described as yokai. The details of her physical appearance vary across different sources, but she is commonly described as having a bobbed haircut and as wearing a red skirt or dress. The details of Hanako-san origins also vary depending on the account. In some versions, Hanako-san was a child who was murdered by the stranger or an abusive parent in a school toilet. In other versions, she was a girl who committed suicide in a school toilet. In still other versions, she was a child who lived during World War II and who was killed in the air raid while hiding in a school toilet during a game of hide-and-seek. To summon Hanako-san, it is often said that individuals must enter a girl toilets, usually on the third floor of the school, knock 3 times on the third stall, and ask if Hanako-san is present. If Hanako-san is there, she will reply with some variation of "Yes, I am." Depending on the story, the individual may then witness the appearance of the bloody or ghostly hand. The hand, or Hanako-san herself, may pull the individual into the toilet, which may lead to hell. Or the individual may be eaten by the 3-headed lizard, who claims that the individual was invading Hanako's privacy. Author and folklorist Matthew Mayer has described the legend of Hanako-san as dating back to the 1950s. Michael Dylan Foster, author of the book of Yokai, Mysterious Creatures of Japan's Folklore, has stated that Hanako-san is well known because it's essentially an urban legend associated with schools all over Japan. Since the 1990s, it has also been used in films, so it became part of popular culture, not just orally transmitted or local folklore. In 2014, an article published by NPR described Hanako-san as having become a fixture of Japanese urban folklore over the last 70 years.
Tomorrow you will die at this hour.
The spider bite is a modern urban legend that emerged in Europe during 1970s. The legend features a young woman from an ordinary northern location like England or New York City, who is on vacation aboard an exotic southern location. While sunbathing on the beach, she is bitten on the cheek by a spider. The bite swells into a large boil, and she rushes home to seek medical treatment. She finds a doctor to lance the boil. Then hundreds of tiny spiders came running out of her cheek. She then goes insane from the shock. In other version, a young girl is asleep while a spider crawls across her face and rests on her cheek for a few moments. The next morning, she asks her mother about the red spot on her cheek, and the mother responds, "It looks like a spider bite. It will go away, just don't scratch it." As time passes, the spot grows into a small boil. She confronts her mother again and complains that it's getting larger and that it's sore. The mother replies, "That happens sometimes. It's coming to a head." More days passed and the girl complains that it hurts and it's unsightly. Finally, concerned that it might be infected, the mother agreed to take her to the doctor. But he is not available until the next day. In order to soothe herself that evening, the girl takes a bath. As she soaks, the boil bursts and releases a swarm of baby spiders into the water from the eggs that the mother had laid. In telling the story, there are versions that are set in one's own country instead of being abroad. Usually, when the story is told to others, the location of the incident is quite specific. This urban legend provides a social commentary about the perception of the people who consider southerner locals to be less clean and more dangerous than their own home turf. Spiders are feared by many people, but venomous, hairy or especially large spiders make frequent appearances in legends. Spiders in urban legends have often taken cover in a variety of items regarding from cactus plants and food to hairdos and within the human body. so it is natural to have a fear of invasion. Klintberg's work in Urban Legends elaborates and explains that as a consequence of the absence of spiders in the modern urban environment, they have now assumed mythical proportion in our narrative tradition. Analysts have also suggested that Bassam serpent legends may represent pregnancy fears or fantasies.
Tomorrow you will die at this hour.
The Vanishing Hitchhiker is an urban legend in which people traveling by vehicle meet with or are accompanied by a hitchhiker who subsequently vanishes without explanation, often from a moving car. Public knowledge of the story expanded greatly with the 1981 publication of Jan Harold non-fiction book The Vanishing Hitchhiker. In his book, Harold suggested that the story of the Vanishing Hitchhiker can be traced as far back as 1870s and has recognizable parallels in Korea, Russia among Chinese Americans, Mormons and Ozark mountaineers. Similar stories have been reported for centuries across the world. A common version of above involves the vanishing hitchhiker departing as would a normal passenger, having left some item in the vehicle or having borrowed a garment for protection against the cold. The vanishing hitchhiker may also leave some form of information that encourages the motorist to make subsequent contact. In such accounts of the legend, the garment borrowed is often found draped over a gravestone in a local cemetery. In this and other versions of the urban legend, the unsuspecting motorist makes contact with the family of a deceased person using the information the hitchhiker left behind, and finds that the family description of the deceased matches the passenger that motorist picked up, and also finds that they were killed in some unexpected way, usually a car accident, and that the driver's encounter with the vanishing hitchhiker occurred on the anniversary of their death. Other variations reverse this scenario, in that the hitchhikers meet a driver. The hitchhiker later learns that the driver is actually an apparition of a person who died earlier. Not all vanishing hitchhiker legends involve ghosts. One popular version in Hawaii involves the goddess Pele, traveling the roads incognito and rewarding kind travelers. Other variations include hitchhikers who utter prophecies, typically of pending catastrophe or other evil events before vanishing. There is a similar story which is about two travelers sitting next to each other in a train. One of them is reading a book and the other person asks what the book is about, and the first person say it's about ghosts. Then they have a conversation about ghosts, and the second person asks the first if they believe in the ghost or have ever seen one, to which the first person say that they have never seen or believed in ghosts at all. The second person replies that this is doubtful and vanishes.
Tomorrow you will die at this hour.
Kuchisake-onna is evil figure in Japanese urban legends and folklore. Described as malicious spirit of a woman, she partially covers her face with a mask or other item and carries some sort of sharp object. She has been described as a contemporary yokai. According to legend, she asks potential victims if they think she is beautiful. If they respond with a no, she will kill them with her long scissors. If they say yes, she will reveal that the corners of her mouth are slit from ear to ear, and she will then repeat her question. If the individual responds with no, she will kill them with her weapon, and if they say yes, she will cut the corners of their mouth in such a way that resembles her own disfigurement. Methods that can be used to survive an encounter with kuchisake-onna includes answering her question by describing her appearances as average, or by distracting her with money or hard candies. According to legend, Kuchisake-onna was a woman who was mutilated during her life, with her mouth being slit from ear to ear. In some version of the story, Kuchisake-onna was the adulterous wife or concubine of a samurai during her life. As punishment for her infidelity, her husband sliced the corners of her mouth from ear to ear. Other versions of the tale include that her mouth was mutilated during a medical or dental procedure, that she was mutilated by a woman who was jealous of her beauty. After her death, the woman returned as a vengeful spirit. She covers her mouth with a cloth mask, often specified as a surgical mask, or in some cases a hand fan or a handkerchief. She also carries a sharp instrument with her, which has been described as a knife, a machete, or a large pair of scissors. A person can survive an encounter with kuchisake-onna by using one of several methods. In some versions of legend, kuchisake-onna will leave the potential victim alone if the answer yes to both of her questions, though in other versions she will still visit the individual resident later that night and murder the person while sleeping. Other survival tactiques include replying to kuchisake-onna's question by describing her appearance as average, giving the individual enough time to run away, distracting her by giving or throwing money or hard candies, as she will stop to pick them up, or by saying the word pomade 3 times.
Tomorrow you will die at this hour.
I would really like to know what's your favorite urban legend, so leave the comments down below. If your country have some interesting urban legends, feel free to send it to me. Emails are on the screen and in the description box. Before you leave, please subscribe if you didn't already and like the video. Thank you for stopping by, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.